Welcome to the Reddit library. Serious. Those of you who worked undercover, what is the most taboo thing you witnessed, but could not intervene as to not blow your cover? IDK if I'd count this as me being undercover, but I'll give it a whirl. I used to own a game store where we buy and sell MTG cards in Maryland. There was a big tournament in Pittsburgh the weekend before where someone's collection was stolen, worth a few $1,000s. That day, we were visited by someone we'd never seen in the store before looking to sell a collection matching the description of the stolen collection. I told them that we were interested, but needed to set up a longer time to sit down and look through the collection. We set up a time for the next Tuesday and they went on their way. We then called the police in Pittsburgh who connected us with the detective. He worked with our local Montgomery County police, and they set up a sting. There were 3 cops in the store pretending to play. One actually knew how and is now a regular, and 2 more cars outside. When the guy came into the store, I did exactly what I would have done with a regular collection. Rung it up, negotiated and paid the guy for the collection. Once the money exchanged hands, the cops busted him. Collection was returned to the kid in Pittsburgh and the guy ended up with some plea deal involving probation. I once took my vehicle to an independent shop for routine maintenance. I said I was dropping it off for as long as it might take as I was going to take a long trip the following month. I sat across the street in a diner eating soup and drinking coffee. I got a call that my vehicle needed about $4,500 worth of work an hour and a half later. It never left the parking spot. I told them I didn't want anything done. They said it was half a part already. You Firestone. I'm an assistant service manager at a dealership. That Firestone was turned into a parking lot. Brought my truck into Firestone. It wouldn't go over 46 miles per hour. They told me they needed to bring in a specialist and it would cost around $1,600. I walked away, got home after dark, popped my hood with the engine running, and saw sparks flying. I spent $40 on new ignition wires and my truck ran good as new. Firestone. Worked as a ghost passenger for an airline. Basically I flew around and graded flight attendants' performance. While still parked at the gate with the door open, one flight attendant began berating passengers who were using their smartphones, which was completely permitted at the gate. She threatened to have the person in front of me thrown off the plane if she didn't put hers away. She also threatened me. After we left the gate and were taxiing to the runway, I looked back to see her sitting in her jump seat using her phone. Took a photo of it and included that in my report. She initially denied using the phone and claimed I was being unruly on the aircraft. After she saw the photo, she changed her tune. How do you even get a job being a ghost passenger? I was hired as a flight attendant and was later promoted to the position of check flight attendant, which includes limited supervisory positions including ghost rides. I did most my ghost rides after being promoted to instructor. I work as a researcher studying illegal wildlife trade. In markets, I have seen critically endangered animals being sold openly for pretty low prices. I've also seen plenty of animals dead or dying in these markets with no food or water in the baking sun. But worse than that, I have friends who have had to watch slow-lorizes having their teeth pulled out with nail clippers and not been able to do anything. Slow-lorizes are victims in a nasty animal trade that's going on from viral YouTube videos of them loving to get tickled / scratched / rubbed, but it's actually torture to them. This changed my whole perspective on the slow-loris, and I think everyone must watch it. Edit. First gold ever. Thank you kind stranger for, hopefully, adding to this comment's visibility, so more people are aware of this cruel animal trade taking place. Edit 2. This is another video I found. I'm linking this because there are several closed captioning in a lot of different languages for our international friends, and also a lot of detail in the description of the video providing more information. Also, here is where you can sign a pledge to support the cause. I was running a wire. We were looking to arrest a guy who beat a 2-year-old so bad she had broken femurs. We wired up mom and had her go to the boyfriend's house and try and get him to confess. Mom started out great, led the boyfriend along and started to ducking blow him. He then ducked her. The man who beat her daughter so bad she was life-lighted. She ducked him on wire. I was punching my dashboard and wishing I could arrest her as well. It was awful. Did he ever go to jail? 15 years. We had enough evidence, but you always want more. Plus, the victim was too young to testify, so a confession would have been nice. I'm a private investigator, contracted by government to check massage shops to see if they're soliciting. I usually get sent to shops which have had multiple complaints and an investigation is in its final stages and they need evidence to support their case. So, I go to one place. Everything seems normal except for being asked to strip bare for an oil massage. Eventually I'm asked to flip over. Therapist without asking just starts rubbing some gel on my parts. At this point, I'm obligated to refuse and finish the session. I ask her to stop, but halfway through the sentence I'm hit with the most intense pain. Turns out, she was new and was unaware that alcohol gel is not the same as massage oil. Long story short, manager was convicted of coercing staff on the basis of their visas being revoked if they didn't comply, and I had to stand in court and tell the events of that day. I worked for an armored car service for a while as an undercover guard. When a place had a lot of money, or if it was a risky area, 2 plainclothes guards would arrive before the truck. I would scout the place and outside to make sure the uniformed guys could get in and out safe. We wore a color of the day and the local cops knew who we were, as did the uniformed guards. It was a pretty easy job and I only once waved off a pickup because of a bunch of Latin kings sitting on benches out front. I hung out a while to see what was going on and hoping they would leave so we could make the pickup. As I sat on a bus bench across the road, I watched one of the guys take out his needlepoint. I never would think that a gang member would tote his needlepoint to a stick-up job. Edit, only the top paragraph showed up. I guess I ducked up format or something. I'm not good on my phone. What is a needlepoint? It's like sewing. You use thread to make things on the fabric like logos and seams. Some folks feel it really relaxing. After a hard day of pimping hoes and robbing armored cars, you need to wind down. Former loss prevention here. Best job ever, by the way. Witnessed so much Texas in the stock rooms. Couples, singles, trios, you name it. We had cameras everywhere, of course, especially in the stockrooms due to rampant employee theft. We had countless hours of employee Texas on tape. We couldn't reveal the cameras, which would tip off the thieves, so all we could do was watch. I dated an undercover LP guy in college. He once followed a shoplifter around the 1 street floor of the department store, got into an elevator with her, rode up to the hour floor, and watched from a distance as she filled out an application for employment. Also, like you, Texas in the men's room. He saw and broke up a lot of Texas in the men's room. I used to work for furniture showroom stores that sold out of catalogs. I ran to stores and helped others. One of my jobs was to go to other stores and pretend to be a customer. Most of the scenarios involved various selling points, product knowledge, and upsells. I had to get a written estimate as proof, but also I checked store security, the condition of the store, and so on. Worst was I entered a store and there was no one in there. It was during open hours, but the entire showroom was vacant. So I wandered into the back room. I changed a few things around, and I went into the till and put in a note on the back of my business card that I had been in their till. After half an hour, I just left. I would lock the store up if I had the key. I called the manager and let her know, and she got in her car and immediately drove to the store. There were employees in there by the time she got there, but she checked under the till and saw my business card. She spoke to the employees, who said that they were there the whole time, but were at a loss to explain the business card in the stuff in the back room I had messed up. I think she fired her staff on the spot. I can't remember what happened after that. Another time I was part of an FBI sting. There was a group of people that were using stolen credit cards to buy large ticket items and have them delivered to the store for parking lot pickup, which was an option that a lot of people that lived in rural areas where delivery was not available. But of course, you wouldn't have to verify your address either. All we cared was that you showed up and picked up the merchandise you ordered. The group of people that were using stolen credit cards were actually made up of a few former employees of the company who knew how to game the system. But the FBI was wise to a lot of their thefts, and they set up a sting operation at my store with the drivers. All they had to do was sign for the furniture to complete the deal that they had picked up the stolen merchandise that they had paid for with stolen credit cards. Once they did that, several armored men with guns jumped out of the back of the truck and surrounded the 4 to 5 people, ordered them to the ground, where they were handcuffed and carried away. They didn't even resist, so except for that one moment where you knew that a bunch of agents were going to jump out of a delivery truck, was actually kind of boring. I'm so late to this party, but here it goes. I'm a TV producer. I was working on a popular documentary a while ago. We were following a woman who was addicted to heroin and had resorted to prostitution in order to make money to support her habits. One day, a friend of hers got thrown into jail. She decided she needed to work really hard to bail them out. So she called her friend who owned a crack house that he let girls like her turn tricks in at about $10 a pop. To answer Op's question, I witnessed this girl share needles with many people and watched as John after John came into the house and disappeared into the bedroom with her for a little bit. That's terrible. Did anyone other than you witness that? Must have been tough to look her family in the eye after that. Yay, we have a little crew that sticks together out there, and they were all around as well. Her family knew what she was doing already, so we weren't keeping any secrets for her. Unfortunately, it's just part of the job to in situations like that. Like some others here, I also worked as a private detective. Nothing too taboo that I couldn't intervene in, but when you do mostly workman's comp, there's a lot of completely despicable crud going on. Other times, you get some weird crud. Some examples. 1. There was a guy we were watching that was completely dominating some handicap competitions in the state. He really sold the handicap. Big time. The only time he broke character was when he would stand up and unload his wheelchair from his van in his privacy fenced backyard. 2. Where are all of the school district's computers going? To people who buy them from the security guards at the warehouse. That one actually made the news. 3. Where is all this soda going? To the truck drivers. This one I actually was interviewed and hired into the company to watch what happens on night shift. Was secret shopping at a high-end restaurant, around $100 per plate. The busser came over and refilled my water glass that I had already drank out of and overfilled it, so he poured part back in the pitcher from my glass and proceeded to refill everyone else at the table from the same pitcher. I really wanted to throw a fit, but could only include it in my report. Oh, I bet he got fired for that though. Had you been a health inspector, they could have lost points. That big B rating on the wall would be proof that it's not worth $100 a plate. So I can answer this one. I do social engineering for financial institutions, banks, credit unions etc. I went to a credit union in Texas where the entire place failed on a miserable basis for security. I walked in with a fake badge that stated I worked for a made-up company and I was there to an inspection of a building. I dressed in a polo and khaki pants with matching colors to my badge and walked into the front desk. The girl there was probably in college or just out of school. She immediately let me into the back room and I walked into offices and desks that were unoccupied but located in rooms with other employees. I walked up to empty computers in use and plugged USB drives in, huge no-no, and began typing random things into computers and taking pictures of myself at the computers. Employees would literally look at my and go back to their jobs without thinking anything of a guy taking selfies at their friend's work desk. Once I had been in every office, I went to the vice president's office and opened her desk and looked through files to find personal people's information. Found tons. I went into the file room and took personal loan documents off the shelf and took pictures of Miss Miller accessing them. When I was done, I walked to the person who had contracted my company and laid out all the information I had found and all the things I had done, and the guy just sighed. This scenario has happened a couple of different times. Most places fail somehow. Sometimes it's fun and interesting, sometimes it's boring, and there's nothing worth staying. Edit. I should mention that to answer Op's question, everything I did is a huge taboo for the organization in my industry. If the organization above had followed their compliance rules and regulations, I would have been escorted out within 5 minutes or not even let in the building to begin with. Towards the end of this particular engagement, I was practically begging for someone to catch me. I worked as a secret shopper for a while for a small store. The most egregious thing I found were employees would hide inventory if they knew a sale was coming up. I'd also go in and ask questions about what equipment I should use, just to test their general knowledge. Most failed, but they were young kids getting paid crud, so I felt bad squealing on them. I also forgot to add that I had to put up with being hit on by teenagers and creepy older guys. I had to play along and see if they knew their crud despite throwing terrible game. We used to do this at Walmart when I worked there. Or if something unexpectedly went on sale for way cheaper than what it was, we would all buy the thing before it ever hit the shelf. So many character band-aids. They are usually $2.50 each. Walmart cashier here. They rang up as $0.25. I bought $15 worth. Every kid I gave a gift to got a pack of band-aids. They loved me. Most parents don't buy those BC, they get wasted and are so much more expensive than plain ones. I used to investigate insurance fraud. The one thing I saw that made me the maddest was when I was working in the rundown area near the Philly Zoo and saw a strung out mother walking with her toddler and jerking his arm and screaming at him for not keeping up with her quick walking pace. The kid was not even 2 years old. I really wanted to get out of the car. The funniest one was where I had to go undercover in a bar to investigate this one person. You ever see the Stallone movie Over the Top? Yeah, that's pretty much what this guy ended up doing right on the bar, right in front of my hidden camera and looking direct into my camera lens. It was awesome. The arm wrestling match went on 4 minutes and this bar guy too hurt to work. At times it was very entertaining to work undercover. Man, just living in certain cities is grounds for seeing the strung out parents. Here in Baltimore you see it constantly, and not just in the hood.